What's the difference between drawing from references and drawing from the imagination? Now, I don't mean the obvious, that when we draw from references, we're looking at something, whether it's a photo next to us or whether it's the object itself in front of us. Whereas when we draw from our imagination, we don't have that. Rather, what I'm talking about is process-wise, what's the difference? Now, I hardly ever draw from my imagination. I enjoy, for all sorts of reasons, drawing from references, either photos or on location. But if I were to draw from my imagination, how difficult would that be, and why would it be that difficult? Here are my thoughts on the topic. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So when I draw from a reference, I'm looking at the object and I'm having to do all sorts of things. I'm having to translate what I'm seeing. I have to look at my photo or the object in front of me. I'm working out exactly what I'm wanting from my drawing. In what ways will it be a straight copy, or in what ways will I use my reference as a springboard? I'll make changes, modifications for my own creative interests or intentions. And then I have to work out what marks I'm going to use to capture the effect that I'm seeing in my reference on my paper. In effect, I have to translate now my thinking, my desires, my interpretation, my intentions onto the paper. Now, if I'm drawing from my imagination, I'm not doing that. So what am I doing? I would say we're actually looking at references as well, but these are references that we've stored in our mind. See, if I were to say to someone, draw, and then I was to say something that they've never heard of and never seen, they wouldn't be able to draw it because they've got no reference point. It's like you can't take a book out of the library if the book's not in the library to begin with. And as far as I can understand, when we draw from imagination, we're actually going and looking through our filing system of how things look, what things look like. And included in that would be how things change in how they look when we change the position that we view them from, or we change the lighting, or we change any other of the parameters that it's possible to change when we draw. Because the memories we need to draw on are not just visual ones, but they're conceptual ones. They're things that we normally don't have to think about if we're drawing from a reference. Because if you like, that life situation took care of them. It is telling me now the position from which we're viewing this object or the light that's on it. But if I'm digging into my imagination memories, if I'm trying to find references to help me understand how to draw something, it's not just knowing what it looks like, but it's understanding how it looks will change if we move our position up, down, around, back, closer. Now, I think we can all see that, in fact, drawing from the imagination in many ways is a much more demanding, much more challenging task. At least if we want to somehow capture some essence of realism in what we draw, it certainly is. Because suddenly it's not just good observation skills and it's not just good translation skills, but we actually have to have such a solid understanding of the form that we're wanting to draw that we can, in our mind, spin it around and move up and move down, change the angle that we view it from, change the position of the light, and all the time be able to see, in inverted commas, see that clearly enough now in our mind that we can do a at least competent job of capturing the way that form looks under those circumstances. When I have drawn from my imagination, it's personally more likely to be something such as in a reference I'm using in a photo or a scene, there's some element that I think is unhelpful that I want to remove, but I need to put something else in its place. So I dig into my library of memories and I find other images, other objects that could possibly fit into the overall visual context of the drawing. And then I work out what parts will I draw and how are they going to look when they're angled in whatever angle is demanded by the rest of the drawing. Clearly a more challenging thing to do than simply drawing what's there. But sometimes drawing what's there won't be in the best interest of our drawing. So is it better to do one than the other? Well, I don't think there's any better when it comes to art, but does one have possibly advantages over the other? I would say aim to draw whatever is in you that wants to draw in whatever way it needs to be drawn to happen. And if that's drawing from imagination, then that's a great target to have. But if my thoughts have been in any way the right direction, then I think it's clear that if we want to draw from imagination, the first thing we have to do is to actually put the memories into our mind so that we can draw on them. And then we have to put understanding of how things change when our viewing position changes. A lot of that is simply a solid understanding of perspective. We also need to have that reference book in our mind so that when we need a chapter on something, we can pull it out and consult it and think, yes, that's going to mean that this object is going to look like this. But I have to have more than a passing knowledge of the object and how it's formed in order to be able to do that. I have to have a three-dimensional understanding of how it looks. Rather than just having seen one view, I need more than that to draw on if I'm in any way going to shift the viewpoint. So I would say that if I wanted to draw from my imagination, then the best place to start is whatever subjects I can see myself needing or wanting to draw, I need to really start to study those subjects in life. Observation face to face, if that's possible, but definitely through photos, and lots of different photos from different angles under different conditions, because this is how I'm going to put the memories into my mind, as well as the understanding of how physics works when we look at something, that I can then take out and refer to and create effective captures of whatever's in my mind on the paper. G'day, I'm Stephen Travis. This is something I've simply been thinking about a bit over the last few weeks, and this is the conclusion that my thoughts have come to. I found it very interesting. I don't have a great desire to draw from the imagination, so I'm not sure it's going to change what I do, but I think any understanding is always helpful in the bigger picture. And I hope this, at the very least, has been interesting for you. I'll see you next video. Bye.